Hello, this is Bernadette Sobchak. Welcome to COVID-19 version of Neurologic assessment. So we're going to go ahead and go over what we expect you to do on test outs. So first things first, we're going to assess my son Alexander. We're going to assess his mental status. So first we're going to just take a look of his appearance and his behavior. He looks like he's appropriately dressed. It's a late winter day. He's appropriately dressed. How did you get here today?
By car.
Okay, good. Your mom drove you. So very normal. So tell me a couple things. What is today?
Today is the Saturday.
Okay, very good. Today's Saturday. Okay, and where are you at?
Your work.
Yep, that's appropriate. He's at my work. Okay, excellent. And we already know how you got here, so, okay. All right, well, Lloyd, let's go ahead and get started. Some things we can do to test for memory. I'm just gonna go over what I do when somebody has a concussion because I think it's gonna cover everything. I'm gonna give you 3 words, Alexander. I want you to remember them, and then I want you to repeat them back to me in about a minute, okay?
Okay.
And then we can do it again at 5 minutes. So 3 words that I'd like you to remember are bird, bird, okay.
Bird.
Blue.
Blue.
And shoe. Bird, blue, shoe. Okay, so just kind of remember those. To test and see his ability to think through things and calculation, I would ask him to spell the word world backwards.
D-L-R-O-W.
Very good. Okay. What were those 3 words?
Bird, blue, shoe.
Okay, and I'm going to ask them to you again. And then if I want to test his cognitive abilities, something I can do is I'm going to have him do serial 7s. So what is 7 minus 100?
93.
What is 93 minus 7?
86.
What is 86 minus 7?
79.
What is 79 minus 7?
72.
Okay, and I could just keep going on and on and on and on, but you get the point. Let's go ahead and test his coordination. I'm going to go ahead and have you stand up for me, please. All right, and go ahead and hop down here. Some things I like to do to test coordination is I'm going to have you touch your finger to your nose and then touch my finger. Touch your finger to your nose and then touch my finger. Touch your finger to your nose and then touch my finger. Now use your other hand. Finger to your nose, touch my finger. Finger to your nose, touch my finger. Finger to your nose, touch my finger. There you go. Excellent. Okay, now go ahead and hop back up there. We're going to test his fine motor movements now. A way I like to, you can come in closer please. A way that I like to test fine motor movements is ask the patient to touch the thumb to every single digit. So go ahead and do that for me. Good. Excellent. Okay. And then another thing we like to do is test rapid alternating movements. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you smack your hands to your knees and then turn them around. Now do it real fast. Okay, so good. He is able to do that, and that's a test of rapid alternating movements. We can also test for proprioception. So I don't have a tuning fork, but one thing I could do is put a tuning fork on his toe and ask him to tell me if he feels it. Another thing we could do is take his toes and his hands. Close your eyes, please. I want you to tell me whether or not I'm moving your finger up, down, or side to side, okay? All right, so am I moving your finger up, down, or side to side?
Up.
Good.
Side.
Okay.
Up. Down.
Okay. Let's take off one of your shoes. I should do it on both sides, but for the purpose of time, I'm just going to do one. All right, close your eyes, Alex. And he's got black socks on. He's not nasty, I promise. But tell me if I'm moving your toes up, down, or side to side.
Down.
Good.
Up.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put his sock back on. Actually, put your sock back on. There you go. And let's go ahead and go on from there. So next I'd like to test Alex's reflexes. All right. Okay. All right, buddy. And another thing what I always like to do is I always like to assess somebody's speech their ability to make eye contact. People who don't have good ability to make eye contact may have social anxiety. They may also have autism or something like that, or some other neurologic deficit. So I'm going to go ahead, and he has normal tone of voice. And now what I'm going to do, I don't have a reflex hammer. Ideally, you would want to do this with a reflex hammer, but if you are desperate, like I am, because I can't get the reflex hammers because they're locked up right now. They're in the lab and I don't have the key. So I'm going to just take my diaphragm of my stethoscope. I'm going to find, there's a tendon right there, and I'm going to hit it. And it's not working too well. Okay, so something you can do if you can't elicit a really good reflex is have the patient take one hand, clasp it together with the other hand, and squeeze as tight as you can. So can you do that for me? Squeeze it as tight as you can. Come on, tight, 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 tight. Keep doing that, keep doing that. There we go. Keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. Okay, good. That was kind of a delayed reaction, but we'll take it. All right, so those are the patellar reflexes. So we want to hit with the, if we're using a reflex hammer, we want to hit with the tip of it. Now we can go down and do the Achilles reflex. So we'd want to make sure we're hitting back here. I know it's hard to see. And good. And what you're looking for is a flick of his foot, and he did do that. So I'm going to try to see if I can do it again on video there. He had a good flick. And I would do it on both sides, but for the purpose of time, I'm not going to do that. And now the next thing we're going to want to do is the brachioradialis. For that one, we would want to hit with the blunt, or the longer side. If this was a reflex hammer, we'd want to hit with the longer side of it. And we would want to hit right here. Ooh, he had a really good one. I don't know if we can get that on video. Let's see if we can get that on video. See, see how it kind of retracts? That's what we're looking for. And of course, we would do it on both sides. So for the biceps reflex, it's a little more challenging. With the biceps reflex, what we want to do is actually hit our own finger, which seems kind of weird, but we want to cradle the arm. So can you get a good zoom in of how I'm cradling his arm? You want to take your arm, loop it underneath the patient, and cradle it. So you want to cradle his elbow. And what I'm doing is I'm actually hitting myself, and he's having a reflex. I've got my finger right here over his tendon, because DTRs are just that, they're deep tendon reflexes. And I'm hitting, oh, dang, you had a good one there. So you're actually hitting your own self. You're actually hitting your own thumb. And he's got a really good biceps reflex. Of course, I'd want to do it on both sides. And then finally, I would want to take, oh, that's loud. I would like to take the large end of the reflex hammer and do the triceps reflex. The triceps reflex is often the hardest one to get because people want to tense up their arm, and that doesn't allow for a good reflex. So loose like jello. I just want you to be nice and loose like jello. Nice and loose like jello. And then what I'm going to do, I want it to hang down. The main thing is that the appendage is hanging down. And there he goes. You can see that. He flicked his arm outward. Woo, that's a good one. There we go. So the key is that he's like dead weight, that you have dead weight and that you're supporting his humerus while you're hitting this tendon up here between the humerus and the elbow. He's got a really good one. All right, there you go. Let's go ahead and put that, but of course you'd want to do that on both sides. Hyperactive, a normal reflex you would score as a +2. Hyperactive would be 3. And clonus, which is like a repeat clonic, which could be from high calcium or close to seizure activity, clonus would be a 4. And then absent would be 0, normals are 2, and barely there is like 1. So that's how you rate reflexes, your DTRs. And so let's go ahead and, what were those 3 items that I asked you to remember?
Bird, blue shoe.
Very good. So that was about 5 minutes later, so I don't know if I was perfect. So let's go ahead and do the cranial nerves. So I like to do cranial nerves in together, if that makes any sense. I like to do all the eyes together. we obviously, if we're in person, we could ask you which cranial nerve you're testing. Students have an idea of what they're testing, and I like them to do the optic nerve, so 2, the ophthalmic nerve, 3. I like to have them do abducens, which I believe is 6, all together, because they're all having to do with the eye. So the way I test these 3 is I would have the patient do a Snellen chart to check the distance vision in both eyes. I would also give them a near vision chart to do. I don't have that today with me, but I would have them do that to test their visual acuity. The next thing I would do is I would check for red reflex. So look straight ahead at the wall, Alex. And what I'm doing is I'm looking through the ophthalmoscope right through here, that clear. I hold it up to your eye. That's the only way you're going to be able to see it. People say, oh yeah, I saw the red reflex and they're standing back here. That's bull. They didn't see it. So you want to put it up to your eye and you want to shine it. Look at the wall, Alex. I want to see the red reflex as I'm shining the light in his eye. Keep looking at the eye, at the wall, and while I'm shining this light in your eye. Good. So I see a nice, healthy red reflex. The next thing I would like to do to test Alex and his cranial nerves is I'd like to do those 6 cardinal positions of gaze. So everywhere my finger goes, I want just your eyes to follow, so don't move your head. Good. 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 Good and good. And then good. So that's what I just tested was accommodation whenever I bring his finger inward. I have a pen light, or I could just use the ophthalmoscope. You can dim the room if you wish to, but now I'm going to get closer. Come closer. We're going to check for pupils equal, round, reactive to light. So keep looking straight ahead at Sydney, and then you can zoom in on his eyes. So I'm going to check one eye and look in this. I'm going to shine light in this eye and check for consensual response, and he does. So as I'm shining the light in this eye, this pupil should constrict as well. So his pupils are equal, they're round. They do shrink with the light. They get smaller as I'm shining the light in his eye. And we already tested accommodation. So that's Perla. We checked for red reflex. Another thing we need to test is confrontation. So bring your legs around this way. All right. And I might be doing this wrong. I'm not going to lie. I didn't review this as well as I should. Shame on me. So I'm going to have the patient, let me think of this. I'm going to have you face me and I'm going to have you cover this eye. All right. So this is to check for tunnel vision or to check to make sure that your peripheral vision is intact. So I want you to, and you should stand about 2 feet apart from the patient, and you look straight ahead, and you're going to check to see if he can see the fingers that are moving at the same time that you are, to check his peripheral vision fields. So tell me, look at me, tell me when you see it. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
I see it.
Okay, tell me when you see it.
See it.
Good.
See it. See it. See it.
Okay, good. Now go ahead and cover up the other side. Now I'm going to cover up my side as well. So we're covering up the same side, and we're testing, and we should see the fingers moving, the wiggly fingers at the same time. So tell me when you see the wiggly finger, but keep looking at me.
Yep. There it is. Uh-huh. Yep.
Perfect. Excellent. All right. Very good, Alex. We tested confrontation. We test the 6 cardinal visions, gaze. We test the acuity and red reflex. So we're good for cranial nerves 2, 3, 4, and 6. Let's go ahead now and check your trigeminal nerve. So your trigeminal nerve, there's 3 branches of your trigeminal nerve 5, and they innervate the face. So I also like to test at the same time your facial nerve at the same time. So you check 5 and 7 together. So we check the trigeminal nerve, which has 3 branches. It's got the branch that innervates the forehead, it's got a branch that innervates the maxilla, and one that innervates the mandible. So what I want you to do is I want you to wrinkle your forehead like this. Bring your eyes up like your eyebrows up like this. Perfect. Good. Puff out your cheeks. Good. Smile for me. Good. Excellent, excellent. Close your eyes now. I am not going to do the corneal light reflex because this is my kid and I think that's cruel. But the corneal reflex is where you touch a piece of cotton into the eye, and the patient's eyes will blink, and that's detect the corneal reflex. I'm not going to do that. You can go ahead and open your eyes up. Okay, close your eyes now. I'm so confusing. Tell me when you feel my touch, okay?
Huh? There.
Just tell me when you feel it, okay?
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Indeed. Quite. Yes, sir.
All right, excellent. He's being silly. All right. Then I want you to clench your cheeks now. Go like this, or clench your mouth together. Open your mouth. Open your eyes. Good. Clench your jaw together. Good. I want to feel to make sure it's nice and tight. Let's see if there's anything else I missed. Wrinkled brow, smile, frown, touch, cheek, chin. Good. Looks like we got them all. And now, I can't get access. We would want to do our Weber and Rhine tests. The Weber test is the one where, and we did this during our hearing portion of it, but you would want to do the Weber and Rhine. And if we had the tuning fork, we would hit the tuning fork, we would put it on the top of his head and ask him to tell us if he heard it stronger in one ear versus the other. In this case, he's going to tell us that he doesn't, which is a normal test. The Rene test, we're going to hit the tuning fork again. We're going to place it on his mastoid bone, and we're going to ask him to tell us when he stops hearing the vibration. And then when he stops hearing the vibration, we're going to test for air conduction by holding it in front of his external auditory canal to see if he can tell us when he can hear it. Your bone conduction, your air conduction should be twice as long as your bone conduction in the Rene test. The Weber test is on top, the Rene test is back here. And air conduction should be twice as long as bone conduction. We can also test the acoustic nerve or cranial nerve 8. That was a test of cranial nerve 8, by the way. We can test it by whispering something and having him repeat it back to us, which is what we're going to do now. Repeat it back.
Hey, loudly or quietly, yeah?
Just repeat it back. What did I say to you?
You said baseball.
Yes, okay.
Football.
Very good. Okay, excellent. So we have that. Now we're going to test the glossopharyngeal nerve and the vagus nerve. So if I had something to taste, I would put it on his tongue. I'm not going to test his gag reflex because that's cruel. But if he was an unconscious patient or somebody we had a doubt about, I would take this and gag him. But for right now, all I'm going to do is you can go ahead and face forward now. Thank you. I'm going to have him open up his mouth and say the word ah. In people with a normal glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve, the palate will rise when they say ah. Now what I want you to do is again puff out your cheeks. Stick your tongue in, there you go, in your cheek. Oh, we can puff them down, depuff, don't let them go. Now put your tongue in your cheek, Other side, good. Stick your tongue out, move it side to side. Okay, so no, just side to side like this. There you go. So there's no vacillation or movement of the tongue, and he's able to do that. And he's able to stick his tongue out. People with deficits of the cranial nerve, such as if they have a stroke or some sort of tumor, sometimes can have deviation of their tongue. And let's see what else we have on our list. Oh, we got to do the spinal accessory nerve. So what I would like you to do, I'm going to put my hands, so we're testing spinal accessory nerve, I'm going to put my hands down on your shoulders, shrug for me, even though I'm pushing down. Shrug, good. Now I'm going to put my hand up against the side of his cheek, and I want him to push as hard as he can against it. Push as hard as you can against it, good. Same thing on this side. Excellent, so those are your spinal accessory nerves. Squeeze my hands as tight as you can. Good, I just like to do that. Go ahead and let go. I like to test his muscle strength to make sure that it's nice and even. And one other thing we could test, if we have concerns about whether or not they have peripheral neuropathy, of course the best thing we could use is one of those kits, and of course I can't think of the name of it right now, but we use to test for diabetes. But I don't have that here with me, but I would like to test sensation. And the way we do sensation test is we do the sharp dull test. So Alex, this would be sharp. So I just broke open a tongue blade. So this would be what I call the sensation of sharp, okay? This would be dull. Now I want you to close your eyes. I want you to tell me if it's sharp or dull.
That might be, yeah, that's sharp.
Good.
That's sharp again. Yeah, it's sharp. That's dull.
Okay. And then I would do the same thing to his foot without his sock on, but maybe he'll be able to do it.
That might be the sharp side.
No, let's take it off then. Oh my goodness, my son has peripheral neuropathy. All right. Tell me if it's sharp or dull. You got your eyes closed?
Oh yeah, that was sharp.
Okay.
Oh, that's the dull side. That might be the.
What is that? Sharp or dull?
Yeah, that's the dull
Maybe we
side.
need to get Alex checked out. In all seriousness, if you did have a patient like this who had difficulty determining sharp and dull, I'm going to go ahead and give this back to you. If you have a patient who has difficulty determining sharp or dull, you would want to get, I can't of course think of it right now, but the monofilament testing to have them tell you whether or not they can sense that. That's actually the gold standard is monofilament testing. I believe that concludes everything for the neuro assessment. What were those 3 words?
Bird blue shoe.
Awesome, very good. All right, thank you so much. I will be doing a live session to where you can ask questions about the test outs here on Tuesday, it's St. Patrick's Day. All right, thank you.